Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for watching. This is Warren Redlick Sunday Live. Got a little bit of a new hair thing going on or non-hair thing going on. See what you guys think about that. Gonna dive into napkin math for Tesla bot, but really quick before we get into that, the chat on Locals. This video right now is live on Locals. It'll be replayed on YouTube later. If you want to participate in the live stream itself, please join the Locals platform, warrenredlick.locals.com. Cyberbad says, so much of Tesla's plan is depending on in-house batteries production. Why is this production not reported on a quarterly basis? Okay, so I think that's true. A lot of Tesla's plans depend on in-house battery production, but a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it depends on lithium iron phosphate battery production in China. They have partners Panasonic and LG Chem and maybe others. So Tesla's in-house battery production is going to become a lot more important very soon. There's not a lot to report on a quarterly basis yet. They're not producing in that much volume yet for them to be able to produce it to report it quarterly. And I'm not sure they will. There was a question on the investor call for Q1, and actually I think there were two questions, and one of them was mine, and they didn't answer it. I asked what's the run rate, and they didn't answer the question. So they may not be comfortable answering that yet. Their answer was, we're doing well, and we're set for producing Model Y in volume with structural packs. So hard to say what that means. They haven't put Model Y on the store yet. If you go to Tesla.com and you look for Model Y, there's no standard range Model Y all-wheel drive. Option's not available to order yet. So it's coming, but it's not yet. So it's a little premature. It would be nice to get updates on in-house battery production. Maybe they will start doing that in the future. Let's hope. Crazy Dave says, I feel like the Tesla bot, and we're going to be talking about Tesla bot napkin math in a minute to talk about why Tesla bot's going to drive Tesla's value insane. Says, I feel like the Tesla bot will be a huge game changer because it will enable portable robotics. True, but Tesla cars are already portable robotics. Much of our modern day robotic systems are stationary, require fixtures and conveyors to bring the work to the robot. The Tesla bot will go to the work and wouldn't need customized infrastructure to do tasks. Flexibility and simplicity of operations is a vital ingredient to unlocking the full potential of Tesla AI. I'll probably talk about that during my napkin math conversation, but I think that the key is it's going to start early on with Tesla bot being able to do some simple tasks that humans do, but maybe humans don't like to do. At some point, maybe Tesla bot will become a completely general purpose robot, but I think in the short run, like the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to figure out tasks that Tesla bot can do, that they can train it to do, that it will be able to do well, that will relieve humans of doing that unnecessary labor and free humans up to do higher value added labor. There's people who have this fear that at some point Tesla bot's going to take over all human labor. That's a long way down the road. Like roofing, I think roofing is a perfect job for Tesla bot. James Dowman disagrees with me, so we'll see. I think that, hello Alexandra, and I think Cookie UK is in the chat too. Thanks everybody for joining the chat. So let me go on to Tesla napkin math. Let's get diving in. But again, please join, sign up on warrenredlick.locals.com, the Daily Lie, as a free member just to see these live streams, and paying supporter if you want to be able to comment in the chat, if you want to be able to comment on the post, and if you want to see the exclusive content, which is more political. So if you're not into the political stuff, it's not Tesla stuff. The exclusive content is more political oriented rather than Tesla oriented. You just want to support me on Patreon, that's great too, or as a YouTube channel member. So Tesla napkin math, let's start with this. How much is it going to cost to build a bot? I say it's less than $10,000, but let's work with $10,000 from now. I don't mean what it's going to cost to build a bot prototype, but when they're producing bot in volume, when they're producing 100,000 a year, 1 million a year, 10 million a year, how much is it going to cost to produce an individual bot? If you figure that it costs $30,000 to produce a Tesla Model 3 or a Tesla Model Y, those things weigh like 4,000 pounds. Tesla bot's going to weigh 125 pounds. Just the material cost is dramatically less for Tesla bot. Yes, there are actuators, but Tesla cars have powerful motors. The battery pack in a bot is going to be much, much smaller and much less expensive than the battery pack in a car. Manufacturing at scale, $10,000 is probably high. It doesn't really matter when we dive into this, when you get into this math here, whether it's $10,000 or $5,000 or $2,000, it's not really going to matter because the revenue generated by Tesla bot is so insanely huge that the cost of the bot itself becomes trivial. So let's start with this idea that in the United States and probably in Europe and Japan and probably not quite in China yet, but there's very few jobs that pay less than $10 an hour in America. $10 an hour is roughly the lowest wage that you see. There are some jobs that, minimum wage jobs or low wage jobs that pay more. There are probably a few jobs that pay less, but $10 an hour is a nice number to work with because it's a simple number. Now, what people don't realize is the boss, the employer, doesn't really just pay you $10 an hour if you have a $10 an hour job. They got to pay for workers' compensation insurance. They've got to pay taxes withholding. There's an employer side of Social Security and Medicare tax that has to be paid. So ballpark, a $10 an hour worker costs the boss $15 an hour. That's not even including that the worker takes vacation time, takes sick time. The bot's going to be probably working a lot more consistently. Let's say that the bot works 4,000 hours a year, and what it does is it effectively replaces one worker for that 4,000 hours for 2 shifts. 4,000 hours a year is 2 shifts. So instead of working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., it probably works 6 a.m. to midnight, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., something like that. So you get 16 hours in, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you can sort of I picture it in the context of like a Burger King or a McDonald's, and let's say you've got 10 people working in the Burger King and McDonald's. It doesn't replace one worker. It does enough tasks that the boss only needs to hire 9 other workers to do the work that used to be done by 10. So it takes out the trash, it mops the floor, it does all the routine, boring stuff that humans don't want to do and leaves the higher value-added stuff for the humans. And this frees up the boss to eliminate one $10 an hour worker, which costs him $15 an hour times 4,000 hours a year, saves the company $60,000 a year. That is the essence of the napkin math for a Tesla bot. So essentially, the bot has $60,000 a year in value, right? It's bringing $60,000 a year in value to that employer. So suppose you lease the bot out to Tesla owns the bots, leases them out to employers at $40,000 a year. This is a massive oversimplification. There's a lot of ways that this could work out. Tesla could lease them by the hour, they could lease them by the day, or they could lease them by annual contract. If they leased them by the day or by the hour, it would probably be significantly more than this amount of money. But just running with it, let's say Tesla's getting $40,000 a year in revenue from the bots, and Tesla builds a fleet of 1 million bots. That's $40 billion in revenue. That's pretty healthy. That's a good set of numbers for Tesla. Now so that was $40 billion in revenue. Now suppose instead Tesla makes a fleet of 100 million bots instead of 1 million bots. Now you get $4 trillion in revenue, which is insane. But it's not crazy to think that globally there's enough demand for labor, especially with the labor shortage that we're seeing in the United States, Europe, other places. The potential for bots to do the boring, uninteresting, and dangerous and repetitive work that humans don't like to do, there's probably at least 100 million jobs for a bot at $40,000 a year. Probably at least that, if not more. So you conceivably could see it going to $4 trillion in revenue. So looking at it big, right? If we're going with these big numbers and you say there's $4 trillion in revenue, that's probably $3.5 trillion in gross profit because the bot doesn't cost that much. The electricity to run the bot doesn't cost that much. And if you figure $3.5 trillion in gross profit, you got $2 trillion in net profit. With a PE of only 30, a price earnings ratio of only 30, Tesla gets a $60 trillion market cap or $60,000 a share. This is without robotaxi. This is without the battery revenue model. This is without selling cars. This is without Megapack. This is without Powerwall. This is just running bot. With 100 trillion bots generating $60,000 a year in value, $40,000 a year in revenue for Tesla. And you can knock these numbers down however you want. If you knocked it way down and got it to $20 trillion market cap, it's still $20,000 a share. I think it's going to actually trend higher, and I'm going to show you why. What happens is the bot gets trained to do higher value work. What happens when the bot gets trained to do work that's $20 an hour work? I see roofing being on the horizon. Tesla has solar roof. Tesla has solar panels on roofs. Installing those panels on roofs is a big deal. If you can get the bot to do that kind of work, that might be $40 an hour work, but let's call it $20 an hour work, right? It replaces some of the work that the roofers do. It doesn't replace everything that the roofers do, but it takes over some of the tasks. There's a critical detail here. Elon talks about dangerous, repetitive, and boring. There's a danger side. Working on roofs is dangerous. There's Number one, you're usually exposed to a lot of heat, a lot of uncomfortable climate, climate situations, heat, whatever it is, a lot of sun. And if you fall off a roof, it's really bad. If a bot falls off a roof, just get another bot. Maybe you can fix it, maybe you can't. But if a human falls off a roof, it's very, very devastating to that human. If a bot falls off a roof, you lost a $5,000 or $10,000 bot. You just make another one. If you have $20 an hour, then it's $30 an hour value to the boss, right? So that's $120,000 a year in value. At that point, Tesla's leasing them out for $80,000 a year. And you could see going to 200 million bots. I mean, the global labor force is billions of people, right? There's billions of people. And this isn't even including, like, you can send them to Mars, you can send them to the moon. I think that's going to be a small scale thing. Working on ships in the ocean, in storms. There's all kinds of ways that bots could handle things that humans don't want to handle. But even the routine stuff that humans don't want to handle, maybe it's picking fruit in the fields. But if you get to where the average bot is doing $20 an hour work, and they're leased out for $80,000 a year, and there's 200 million bots, it's $16 trillion in revenue. Call that $10 trillion in net profit. And you have a $200 trillion market cap for a Tesla bot, just Tesla bot. This doesn't include robotaxi, which could be another $100 trillion in market cap. This doesn't include Tesla Energy. This doesn't include selling cars. This doesn't include AI training services. There's so much else here, but just on bot alone, this may seem crazy, right? This model may seem crazy, but it's really not that crazy. Like I said, you can knock numbers in half. You can say only 100 million bots. You can say 40,000. You're still getting to like a $50 trillion market cap, $50,000 a share. So if Tesla bot succeeds, and I think it's likely that we will see Tesla bot operating in a few years and then becoming commercially successful in a couple years after that, doing work, routine work that humans normally do and don't like to do, replacing that work, freeing humans up. I think another great example that I love to talk about, because my mother's in an assisted living facility, is the work of cleaning up after the elderly in assisted living facilities and nursing homes, as in when they poop themselves. When they pee themselves or poop themselves, you need to clean them up. That is really unpleasant work for humans. It's actually somewhat dangerous to humans because there's some danger of transmitting infectious diseases. Bots can't get an infectious disease and they don't mind the smell. So some of those things we'll have to figure it out. How long is it going to take to train bots to do these things? That's not high wage work, but it's really important work, and it frees up the humans to do the caring part of the work instead of the disgusting and unpleasant part of the work. So a lot of tremendous value there. So you can see, this is not crazy. 200 million bots is not crazy, $80,000. And, it can get bigger. So it can get, it can go to $50 an hour work. It can go to $100 an hour work. But I think if you just start with the idea of it doing $10 an hour work or $20 an hour work, and you realize the volume of bots that there's a demand for, it just gets crazy in terms of valuation. So the usual questions and criticism: what if they underperform? Hey, if they underperform, then we just rely on the battery revenue model, on robotaxi, on Tesla Energy, on AI training services. There's all kinds of things. Because we can see that the cars are driving themselves already. I drive FSD beta. That's just another form of robot with wheels instead of legs. It's really hard to imagine that they can't get this going. People don't understand what's going on here. FSD beta, Tesla's FSD, looks at the world and starts perceiving objects and understanding what objects are out there and where they're likely to move, and it's able to navigate the world. Bot is going to be another step because it's going to start manipulating the world. It's going to start lifting up objects and moving objects and putting this here and putting that there and maybe working with tools. That's something that FSD beta doesn't do. So it's going to take some time to add that layer to the AI training, but it might not take that long. And even if it takes 10 years, let's say we're 2030, which is 8 years away, that's a long time. We're going to see some of this stuff happen. Let me look at the chat here for a second. I buy your hairdryer. Cookie, very nice. Cookie says, Nevada is a huge Tesla cell factory that was implemented by Panasonic many years ago. Easy to forget how this was geared up. And there were volume claims in the public domain at the beginning, not a large napkin to figure out the output from Nevada. Like the cells for all model sales in history came from Nevada 18650 and 2170. No, not all model sales. I believe that LG Chem is making significant number of 2170 cells for Tesla. I think the 18650s might all be from Panasonic and Nevada. And don't forget that a lot of LFP vehicles, something close to half of the vehicles are sold now with lithium iron phosphate batteries in China and some in the US. So it's not all from Panasonic. Cookie says, can I buy your hair dryer? Never used one before. I kept my hair short anyway. P. Burns says, bots to clean hotel rooms come to mind besides fast food worker replacement. Yeah, there's just a lot of simple jobs. One of my favorite simple jobs is walking the perimeter of a secure facility. Just walking the perimeter, looking around, looking to observe things. If it sees something out of the ordinary, an alert goes to the guard, the centralized guard, and the guard sees whatever the bot sees. That's a really, really simple example. It doesn't have to actually manipulate objects, right? All it has to do is walk around and observe. And it's got 360-degree vision. If it sees something that doesn't fit with what it expects, it reports it back to the home office, the central office, and they look at it, and then they can send a human out when something's going on. So you could really deploy a lot of effective security by having bots just walking around looking. Not intervening, not interfering, not touching anyone, just looking. Mitch says, until FSD is released and allowed to be used on public roads, most of the analysts will ignore the bot. They only believe what they see proven. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about analysts. I'm not. When I give numbers about what I think the market cap will be, I'm referring to what the value of the company is, not how Wall Street will price it. It's very hard. I think for now, Wall Street has been underpricing Tesla for a long time. At some point, it may shift the other way and they may start overpricing Tesla. We'll see. Melody says, some of the bots don't need to look pretty based on the job they're doing, saving a few dollars on the white covers and without a face. I don't think the cost of the look is going to be that expensive, but I definitely think you could see different bots designed for different purposes. Agility and balance are essential quality skills for roofers to be roofers and stay safe. Bot on a roof? I'm with Emmett. I could sell tickets for bots doing roofing and open a book on how many jumpers there might be. Well, this is the whole point. They're going to be trained, and initially they're going to fall, and then they'll get better, and then they'll get better, and then they'll get better. And at some point, just like FSD beta is getting better than human, bots will get better than human at climbing ladders and working on roofs. The important thing is, I would rather have 10 bots fall off a roof than one human. If you don't mind humans falling off roofs, okay, but I think that's a no-brainer. And if you have a human fall off a roof and land on their head, you might have a no-brainer. Reminder, check out the stainless steel water bottle and the t-shirts. Tesla is the next Tesla t-shirt, one of the most popular Tesla Air shirt at elonbits.com. Okay. What about the competition? There really is no competition for Tesla bot yet. People talk about Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics has a bot, but the bot is not using AI. It's just simply following code. The human coder has to program everything it does. It's not competition. As far as I can see, there's nothing close to competition for Tesla bot, probably for 10 years after Tesla bot starts appearing in actual practical use. I, by the way, think that Tesla bot will start with a beta program, just like we've done FSD beta. People like me who are suckers will pay $25,000 for a bot or $10,000 for a bot or whatever, and we'll tell it to do things and watch it fail, and it'll send that information back to the home office, and it'll help train the bots. We'll expose it to different walking environments. We'll expose it to different perceptive environments, and bot will then will generate a lot more data, and bot will be able to learn from all that increased data. That's my thing. Everybody thinks that the bot's gonna be working in Tesla factories. I don't think there's much work in Tesla factories for bot. I think that there are other things that they want bot for, and that Tesla factories are not really the ideal use case. But people keep assuming that's what it is, and Elon hasn't told them no yet. I just don't see it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. People talk about my valuation when I say $200 trillion market cap. They say, well, that's bigger than GDP. But GDP, just really quick, market cap does not map to GDP. Profit maps to GDP. And if bot is very successful, then GDP is going to grow. So GDP is not a standing target. It's a moving target. And we're talking about 2030, roughly. And GDP will have grown a lot by 2030, especially with all the inflation we're seeing. What if prices fall? I don't think that's going to happen. First of all, that's really more of a question that I put in there for the cars. Bot, will generate value based on the work that it does. I don't think that's going to be an issue. And the classic question, what are you smoking? I'm smoking marijuana. That is not a reference to marijuana. That's a reference to the fact that I love math, and people should do more math. There's a marijuana t-shirt along with the Tesla's the next t-shirt at elonbits.com. All right. So let me look I don't think there's anything else in the chat. So let me go to Patreon Q&A. If you're a Patreon supporter, if you're a Daily Live supporter, or if you are a YouTube channel YouTube channel member, then I ask in advance of most live streams, hey, if you have any questions for a Q&A, please submit your question here. And then, so if you support the channel, you will have a chance to ask questions in advance, and I'll address them during the live stream, which I'm going to do right now. So AK has a few things. He said the dedicated robotaxi will look quite futuristic. I think we can infer... Oh, Elon said the dedicated robotaxi will look quite futuristic. I think we can infer this means it'll look distinctive, which is important for 3 reasons no one's discussing yet. It will be easy to spot for passengers that order a ride. Yeah, that's definitely true. Eliminating the need to confirm the license plate like you would an Uber. So he says eliminating the need to confirm the license plate like you would an Uber, making the process smoother. No, actually, it's going to recognize the Bluetooth on your phone. The car is going to, just like when I walk up to my Tesla Model 3 with my car, it doesn't always recognize it right away because the car goes to sleep. And but if I walk up to the car with my phone, the phone recognizes it's me. So if you have a phone with a Tesla app and you order a robotaxi, the correct robotaxi will pull up to your phone and recognize your phone. So you won't even need to confirm a plate. Your phone will tell you, yes, this is the robotaxi, and the robotaxi will know it's you, and it'll open the door for you. Other drivers will recognize them on the road, understand they are autonomous, and will be more likely to be patient and give them a wide berth. I'm not so sure of that. I think there's just as much chance that other drivers will recognize them and try to give them a hard time. I don't know. But by the time that we have robotaxis, they're going to be so good it's not going to matter. They're going to be better than human by a lot. And 3, this will enhance acceptance by the general public for autonomous vehicles, since it won't be as shocking a sight as, say, a Model 3 cruising down the street with no one in the driver's seat. Agree or no? Yeah, that's not a bad point, that if it's a dedicated robotaxi and people recognize it as a dedicated robotaxi, it won't be as disturbing as something that looks like a car with no driver in the driver's seat. I think that's a pretty good point. Thank you, AK. Melody says, I'm assuming Tesla Bot will be built at the Austin Gigafactory. Do you think that they are past the prototype phase? Do you think that once they are past the prototype phase, Tesla will build a new factory at Giga Austin for those, or built in the same building as Model Y? Since you have been to Giga Austin, you have better insight to the size of the factory and surrounding land. And do I think Tesla bots will be built in China and Berlin as well? So let's start with this. I think there's a lot of room in the existing factory. But the existing factory is designed to manufacture large objects. So there are a lot of high ceilings, for example. I don't think Tesla bot manufacturer is going to need such high ceilings. So I think a more efficient... I think they'll start test production of the bot probably at Giga Texas, maybe in Fremont, but probably at Giga Texas. But in the long run, the bot factory will be just a completely different size than the car factory, because the bot lines will be smaller, the castings, if they use them, will be smaller, the battery packs are smaller, the size of the object is smaller, so they're not going to need as much vertical space, certainly. So that's my general sense of it. I don't think that's necessary. And I did, Giga Austin is absolutely huge. And keep in mind that the Model Y lines with front and rear casting and structural pack, the manufacturing takes up a lot less space. So there's even more space than people realize at Giga Texas, because they're not using as much as you think they might use. They're able to keep their lines compact. Do I think Tesla bots will be built in China and Berlin as well? I definitely think they will be built in China and Europe, and maybe Japan. I think the demand for bot will be off the charts everywhere. Japan has a massive labor shortage. I think China may have a labor shortage as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity with the declining birth rates that we're seeing around the world. There's probably going to be even more demand for bots. As you go forward and the babies that aren't born translate to people who aren't in the workforce in the next 5-10 years. Cookie says, I can buy a mini fleet of Model 3 and put them out as robo-taxis. The version with a steering wheel needs a new name. Okay? And I have to clean them and charge them. I want to do the same with bots and take my bot stock to the pub. Yeah, I think that there's going to be three kinds of bot situations. One kind of bot situation is Tesla runs its own fleet of bots and leases them out to people on a daily, weekly, hourly, monthly basis. And then The bot comes home to Tesla, and Tesla cleans it up and makes sure it's ready to go the next day or whatever. Then, or whenever it's done with its run. Keep in mind, I don't know that the bots are going to get as dirty. Depending on the job that they're doing, they may not get as dirty. Actually, if they're cleaning up poop in a nursing facility, then they're going to need to get cleaned up. How are you feeling now about your theory of the Texas-made Model Y being sold as a different trim? Oh, I've been clearly proven wrong that the Texas Model Y is being sold as a different trim, but it's a lower level trim. It is a dual motor all-wheel drive that is, sorry, it's an all-wheel drive model. I think it's a dual motor all-wheel drive that is shorter range than the existing long range and performance Model Ys. I think the theory there is that given the limited number of batteries that they have, it makes sense to use less batteries and make more vehicles. And if you use 2/3 of the batteries, you can make 50% more vehicles. So I think that's what they're doing. And I think once they start producing 4680 at scale, we're going to see a higher trim model. I think that's what's going to happen. Okay. So, and yeah, I think bots will be built everywhere. I think bots will be so useful. I think the poorer the country, the less the demand for bots will be because human labor is so cheap. But as countries become wealthier and as other countries start to experience labor shortages, bot will become in even more demand. Okay, let's see. Just really quick, let's dive into Tesla news and other news. Tesla issued their impact report. I'm probably going to do a video on this tomorrow or the next day, going through the Tesla impact report and looking for nuggets of information that aren't obvious on its face that show how Tesla is doing as a company and what new things are going on. This is a pretty interesting report. If you just go to Tesla, I think if you Google Tesla impact report, you'll find the PDF. It's like 140 pages long. So I haven't read through it yet. I'm going to read through it and I'm going to cover it. We'll do an article on it. We'll do a video on it in the next day or two. Probably tomorrow. And Tesla points out a lot of details that they point out that they created 100,000 direct new jobs in just one decade and are planning to grow for years to come. There's a lot of growth coming at Tesla. There's a lot of jobs created. If you want to get in on it now. Tesla's a great opportunity. You get good price on stock. I haven't talked myself into getting a job with Tesla yet. I was thinking about the Boring Company. So far, so good. I'm just staying with what I'm doing. Just really quick, I met with someone about building a pod car prototype this week. Hopefully I'll have a proposal from them this coming week to go ahead and build it. Tesla news also, Omar was talking about FSD beta drives, and Elon said that the next release, 10.12, I'm driving 10.11.2, so 10.12 will be the next release, is another step forward, all neural nets using surround video and reconciling output to a unified vector space for control code. I believe this is important, number one, for just perceiving the world more clearly and more accurately, but also reducing latency, the time between when the cameras see something and when the car is able to react to it. And so I think there's a lot of advantages to this surround video and reconciling the output to a unified vector space. I think this is reconciling output to a unified vector space as a replacement for the, quote, bag of points that was maybe not ideal for how things were working. Improves complex intersections in heavy traffic. I actually feel like it does pretty well with complex intersections in heavy traffic. I think there are certain situations where you're making what's called an unprotected left turn. Depending on the circumstances, that's hard. So hopefully this is a big improvement in that. Chuck Cook, if you watch Chuck Cook videos, he has a really good example of that. And then many upgrades to core code, so taking longer to debug issues. So probably Wednesday, Thursday release. That would be a few days from now. If we all know Elon, it's going to be next week, not this week. But you never know. Every once in a while, he's on time. Mitch says, my Model S needs to be replaced. I can't get a Model Y before November or February waiting for Cybertruck, but ran out of time. Only option is getting performance Model Y, but it comes with those ridiculous 21-inch wheels, horrible for the Northeast. Well, you could get a Model 3. You could get a Model 3 temporarily. I think that the Model 3s are a reasonable time frame. And you get a Model 3, you'll be able to sell it for probably more than what you paid for it. Yeah, I don't know. Standard range too big to fit in a Model 3. Sorry to hear that. There's a lot of room in a Model 3. I don't know if we had 4 people driving across the country in a Model 3. There's a lot of room in a Model 3. But, okay. I wish I had a better answer for you. I don't have a better answer. Maybe you need to pick up a used Model S. I don't know. All right, so we're going to talk about Twitter a little bit. Elon tweeted that if Twitter acquisition completes, the company will be super focused on hardcore software engineering, design, information security, and server hardware. And also, work ethic expectations would be extreme, but much less than I demand of myself. There's a perception that a lot of people share that Twitter hired a bunch of people who don't work very hard, and we'll see more of this later, and aren't really necessarily experts or knowledgeable enough in what they're doing. So let's see a little bit more of that. Elon said, reply to the same tweet, I strongly believe that all managers in a technical area must be technically excellent. Managers in software must write great software, or it's like being a cavalry captain who can't ride a horse. That there's a widely held perception that the Twitter team is not really delivering the same level of work that Elon expects of his companies. And of course, employees at Twitter are freaking out. The problem is that a lot of companies they get in a situation where people expect the job as an entitlement rather than recognize they're supposed to make the product or service better for the customer and generate revenue for the shareholders, generate revenue and profit for the shareholders. And I think Twitter's gotten away from those things, and Elon has a handle on how they can get to those things. There was some report, I think it was in the New York Times, about a pitch deck that Elon was using to persuade investors to join him in the Twitter investment. I don't get the New York Times, and the pitch deck was not published, so I can't really comment on it. Hopefully, we'll get a hand on that. We'll get to see it. But fundamentally, Elon apparently wants to shift to subscription to some customers, not requiring people to pay to subscribe, but if you pay, maybe you skip the ads. And getting rid of bots is obviously important. And can they generate a lot more activity on Twitter? I think Elon has commented before about prominent accounts that don't tweet very much, the Justin Biebers of the world that don't tweet very much. And can they incentivize them to tweet on the Twitter platform and get more engagement and get more people active on the Twitter platform? I think Elon probably has a solid plan. He doesn't do stuff like this without a solid plan. Mitch says used Model S from 2017 to 2018 or $60,000 plus. Used car market is completely insane. Yeah, but that's what you would pay for a performance Model Y. Reports from those that have seen the pitch deck is that Elon plans to bring Twitter public within 3 years. That's interesting. I suppose once he gets it up and running, I don't know. I don't know that he wants to bring it public. That doesn't seem right to me. I don't see that. I don't think he wants to subject it to public investor scrutiny, but we'll see. And the last thing about Elon and the Twitter acquisition, when Elon got into online payments, it changed the world. Elon, this is from earlier in the week, there's so much potential with Twitter to be the most trusted and broadly inclusive forum in the world. That's why we must clear out bots, spam, and scams. Is something actually public opinion, or is just someone operating 100,000 fake accounts right now? You can't tell. And algorithms must be open source with any human intervention clearly identified. Then trust will be deserved. This is one of the things that when Elon gets criticized by the media and everybody else, they ignore what he actually says he wants to do with Twitter. They just ignore it. All they focus on is they think he's going to let bad people do mean tweets. That's all they can hear. That's all they can see. They don't see, because I know, being on Twitter, I get spam all the time. There's bots everywhere. There's bots sending me direct messages. There's all kinds of junk on Twitter. And fake accounts and all kinds of other things, spams, and it's a lot of things that make it a less pleasant environment for the user. And if you make it a less pleasant environment for the user, then you get less users activity, and then you're generating less revenue for the company. So if they can increase user satisfaction by getting rid of bots and spams and scams, that's going to make things a lot better, and it's going to make the platform feel more trustworthy. Cookie says, is that Jeremy? I think your name's Jeremy. Cookie says, Elon's Twitter will be the world's first AGI beta test with billions of humans training AGI, and it will be astonishing and it'll be animated. Think Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, poor chap. Are you saying that Mark Zuckerberg's a bot? There's always a fourth dimension reason to everything Elon does. Yeah, Elon is playing 4D chess and the rest of us are playing checkers. He's thinking, next level up. He's got different ideas. He's got great ideas. A lot of great stuff happening. Other things to mention, there's another Starlink launch that just happened. Crew Dragon just came down for SpaceX. A lot of great things happening with SpaceX. I believe the FCC just approved. Let me take this down. I believe the FCC just approved part of the Starship orbital launch test, which relates to using Starlink on the ship to be able to communicate with the Starlink network so that they have better signal and better information about what the rocket is doing, and they can learn from it better. A lot of great stuff there. I don't think there's any Boring Company or Neuralink news this week. There was significant Boring Company news last week. Very excited about Boring Company. Very, very excited about Boring Company. That's going to be fun to see. Personal news, I got notice from Tesla that they're now There was some hold on my Model X Plaid, and that hold has been lifted. So now they're looking for a Model X Plaid for me, and the plan is that I'm going to get the Model X Plaid, and I'm going to start driving around the country for a few months, 6 months, whatever, see the world, see the country, and then at some point return to this is the midlife crisis in action, right? I'm going all in on the midlife crisis. So the Model X Plaid is part of the midlife crisis. That's where we're heading. Yeah, SpaceX has launched a rocket at least once a week this year so far. Melody says, yes, SpaceX is really, they're kicking it. They're turning around, they're landing orbital rocket boosters. They're turning them around for relaunch fast. They're making a lot of improvements. They're doing a lot of things really well. Gwynne Shotwell was just interviewed on CNBC by Shepard Smith. I saw there's an excerpt on Twitter, like a minute or two long excerpt. Remember, elonbits.com, stainless steel water bottles, t-shirts, elonbits.com. I can't think of anything else, so I want to particularly thank my supporters on the Locals platform, on Patreon, on YouTube channel members for supporting what I'm doing here. Please check out my other videos. Please check out the t-shirts and the other merchandise at elonbits.com. Support this channel on the Locals platform in particular if you can. And thank you so much for watching.